Good morning and welcome to SITEisfaction 2025. We're really glad to have you with us today. Thanks for coming. With me today, I have the incredible SITEisfaction team, Bronwyn, Elena, and Sasha, who will tell you more about what really matters in the digital banking landscape of South Africa in 2025. But before the team dives into the results, I'm going to take you on a short journey on the evolution and methodology of our SITEisfaction study. So, SITEisfaction has been on the map for 14 years. It's a one-of-a-kind measure and has helped shape the digital banking landscape in South Africa. So far, the survey has engaged more than 35,000 digital banking users. Some of the topics covered in detail in the SITEisfaction survey include usage of internet banking and mobile banking, satisfaction with channels and platforms and the drivers of that satisfaction, and other related issues like security, trust, communication, and online behaviors in general. Over the past 14 years, SITEisfaction has continued to evolve alongside the digital banking landscape. For example, when we launched the study in 2012, we focused only on internet banking via desktop. In 2015, we added mobile banking apps. In 2021, we evolved once again, placing an equal focus on secondary users' banking experience compared to where before we were just looking at your primary bank, and we included secondary banks as well as how brand perceptions and the overall banking experience can impact the digital banking experience. In 2022, we added a qualitative phase to further deep dive into key themes. And in 2024, we placed strong emphasis on meaningful banking, where we looked at the interplay between customer experience and user experience and understanding how banks can put their users back at the center of everything they do. And now, 2025, we deep dive into what personalization and customization really mean and how to get there. So let's move on to the methodology. We conducted 3 concurrent phases during June and August. The quantitative surveys included 2 device-agnostic digital surveys, meaning they could be filled out on phone, tablet, PC, laptop, any device. One on internet banking with a sample of 2,000 internet banking users, and one on mobile banking with a sample of 2,000 mobile banking users. The 2 samples are kept mutually exclusive because the demographic profiles do differ slightly. And from the outset of the study 14 years ago, this phase has always been there. It's always been included. For the implicit brand measurement phase, users from either study in phase 1 were recruited to participate in the implicit brand measurement test, where the non-conscious associations of users were measured. And finally, users from phase 1 were also recruited to engage in a 3-day online qualitative community. So the report blends insights from all 3 phases. And of course, reach out to us if you want to know more about our approach to qualitative research and a proprietary tool for online communities, which we call the Square. Okay, a quick note on the banks that are included. This is a retail bank evaluation. We look at your everyday users with representative samples of the South African digital banking population. You'll see, however, that the drivers across banks and platforms are relatively similar. This means that the insights from this study are transferable to other groups like your business-to-business users. Secondly, while we do include all brands with a retail banking offering in the data collection, we only report on those with a big enough base size to avoid over or underinflating results and scores. This year, the banks included that we're reporting on are Absa, Capitec, Discovery, FNB, Nedbank, Standard Bank, and Time Bank. The detailed results and rankings are available in the full report, but in this session, we're only going to share the results from the top 3 in each category. And those categories are mobile banking with an app, internet banking via desktop or laptop, and then the combined Best Digital Bank Award, which is a combination of those previous 2 results. What we've done in this report is also pull in our findings from our other syndicated piece, Experience in Flux. This research dissects the evolving the evolving expectations of consumer experience, which in turn feeds into what we've seen in this year's SITEisfaction study. We've made notes where any theme from experience in Flux has been included, and if you want to learn more about any of these themes, please feel free to download a complimentary copy of the full report, which you can do by scanning the QR code on the screen, or you should be able to find a link to access the report in the chat. With that, we can finally get into the good stuff. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Bronwyn to take us through the 2025 SITEisfaction findings.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. So we're going to kick it off by taking a moment to recognize our SITEisfaction winners for 2025. First up, our overall best digital banks. And this is a ranking that's based on the weighted accumulation of a bank's internet and mobile banking scores. Leading the pack, we have FNB, followed by Nedbank in second position and Capitec in third. FNB maintains that first place position across both internet and mobile banking, with Capitec and Nedbank coming second and third, respectively, for mobile banking, and Discovery Bank and Nedbank second and third for internet banking. And you'll notice that our top 3 mobile banks are also our top 3 digital banks. And this is because in 2025, the impact of mobile banking on users' overall digital banking experience outweighs that of internet banking. So essentially, this means that getting it right on mobile has to be your number 1 priority. All right, with that in mind, let's explore what is actually driving the SITEisfaction score ranking so that we can inform strategic efforts in those areas that are actually going to push the needle on user satisfaction. First, zooming in on what is important to a mobile banking user. To determine what the drivers of mobile banking satisfaction are, we did a principal components analysis across 42 key elements, and this produced 10 distinct drivers. We took these drivers and we mapped them out relationally to satisfaction using an analysis called structural equation modeling. The output of this was a fully fleshed out understanding of what the mobile banking user experience looks like. I'm going to take you very briefly through these 10 constructed drivers, so what makes them up and how each of these elements drive satisfaction. As the number 1 most impactful driver of mobile banking satisfaction, we have trust. In this context, trust refers to a user's perceptions of how committed their bank is to the security of their users' accounts, as well as the bank's ability to ease user anxieties around security threats. What follows closely is ease of use, and ease of use is all about creating that smooth and intuitive experience for your users. Quality of information speaks to making sure that the information that you offer is always transparent, comprehensive, and accurate. An accessible design talks to an intuitive and appealing app layout. And both of these drivers, quality of information and accessible design, actually feed into the driver of ease of use. Seamless experience focuses on immediate payments, good app functioning, and quick problem solving. And cutting-edge innovation is about the bank's perceived commitment to consistent innovation, as well as to responsive customer support. Communication is a driver that feeds into both of these, and communication is all about the relevant and especially the proactive sharing of information. We have practicality, and practicality centers on the app being suited to function and being up to date. And this is fed into by versatility, which is all about diverse content and services, as well as compatibility to phone and to user. Finally, we have minimal interruptions, and this comes down to perceptions on how often an app is offline or unavailable. So all of these contribute to the mobile banking satisfaction score in varying degrees, which then correlates with general banking satisfaction. With this context in mind, Let's take a closer look at some of the most critical drivers within this model. And to do that, I'll be handing over to Elena.
Thank you, Bronwyn. This year, the key drivers of mobile banking are all centered around the user experience, with ease of use at the very core. Supporting and feeding into this are quality of information and accessible design. And these three essential elements are something that most banks are delivering on. But as we've just seen in the model, trust is a number one, and if trust is not there, the foundation is weak. And in 2025, trust has universally taken a knock. So, how are banks winning on ease of use, on ease of use in mobile banking? Ease of use depends on two critical drivers. First, accessible design, which is all about clear app structure essential for usability. What really sets banks apart is how they communicate their ongoing efforts to improve app design. Interestingly, this year, we've observed that many banks are beginning to slip when it comes to visual appeal, which only highlights the need to balance functionality with engaging aesthetics. Second important driver is quality of information, which is all about how transparent are you about any interruptions or downtime. The key to winning on ease of use lies in delivering a user experience that is not only intuitive and simple, but also tailored to each individual user. And remember, as we have seen last year, users also compare personalized innovation across many different industries. Personalization is where good performers truly differentiate themselves, as this is becoming increasingly critical to your users. The next frontier in ease of use is dynamic personalization, grounded in the identity paths approach. This is where mobile banking experience grow and evolve with each individual, adapting to their changing needs, emotions, and values over time. Users no longer want static generic journeys, they expect intelligent simplicity. Fewer, meaningful options tailored to their evolving needs, making every interaction effortless and relevant. To stand out, banks must make personalization the core of ease, creating adaptive experiences that turn simplicity into a deeply personal journey. To users, it's all about asking banks, are you prepared to grow and evolve with me and my needs? Understanding deeply individualized client needs is no easy feat, but it is certainly the one worth investing in. And the reason for this is joy, even in the smallest of ways. By committing to investing in creating more moments of micro joy for your clients, it in turn creates the foundations of trust and builds on the steps of already established loyalty. And when it comes to digital banking, users have told us that a meaningful, personal digital banking experience is the one that effectively and intuitively offers opportunities for financial control and budgeting, fraud detection and security, peace of mind, and finally, convenience and time saving. This year, however, we are seeing a crisis of trust, bolstered by an unprecedented increase in digital banking fraud incidents and the emerging threat of AI enabled cybercrimes. Users are becoming more and more cautious about risks associated with mobile banking, and all banks are facing the consequence, with a noticeable drop in trust this year. Currently, good performances on ease of use, accessible design, and quality of information are largely cushioning the blow of declining trust for most banks. But with trust being so essential for mobile banking satisfaction, this simply isn't a sustainable strategy in the long term. It is imperative that you show your users not only what you're doing, but also that what you can do is enough to protect them. As app experiences continue to improve for everyone, trust remains the key factor that sets you apart. So, how do you stand out? Well, with a concept we have identified through our research and experience area called anticipatory care. This is all about building trust and confidence through delivering emotionally intelligent, personalized security experiences that proactively identify and address individual customer needs and potential risks, acting like a caring friend who solves problems before they arise, while carefully navigating the balance between being supportive and intrusive. And this is something we'll dive deeper into when we discuss internet banking, as it is universal to the digital banking journey. So, to quickly recap, how to make sure you offer a great mobile banking experience to your users. First, you need to mitigate the downturn of trust by adopting proactive, transparent security communications to address rising fraud risks and rebuild user confidence across all user types. Then, you need to continue strengthening personalization while maintaining simplicity and intuitive navigation to meet diverse user needs. It's crucial to prioritize clear, transparent communication about app disruption and provide accurate, comprehensive account and product information. And lastly, focus on combining clear app structure with appealing visual design and ensuring consistent communication of ongoing improvements. We have only now looked at the top drivers of satisfaction, but if you're truly looking to optimize the mobile banking experience, in our full report, we unpack the full list of drivers and look at the results by banks. Now it's time to shift gears a bit, and I will hand over to my teammate, Sasha.
Thanks so much. So, what we'll focus on now is internet banking and what is key in driving satisfaction among internet banking users. And the drivers of internet banking satisfaction prove to be quite similar to mobile banking. So, rather than take you through the detailed model, we'll jump straight into the most critical drivers. So, this year, banks are seeing gains in easy user experience. However, lapses in trust, as well as fees and payment systems, are declining year on year. In the context of anxiety around the rising rate of digital banking crimes, as well as the growing number of South Africans facing economic hardship, these two drivers have become increasingly important and so are crucial to address. In addition, communication and innovation remain pain points across the industry. The challenge is not a lack of innovation, but rather a lack of communication. So, banks are doing the work, they're just not telling the story. The problem of communication continues to resurface because it brings about constant questions of trust and transparency as the digital banking landscape continues to evolve. Banks are expected to always be ahead of the curve on communicating with and responding to users, both quickly and effectively, in ways that reach users on their own terms. In internet banking, the trust crisis has not yet fully landed, as in mobile banking, but we are already seeing warning signs, with growing concerns around misuse of personal information and the risk of online transactions. Banks who are winning in trust are excelling at combining robust transactional security with clear, frequent, and accessible communication about security updates, fraud prevention, and also data privacy. Ultimately, the banks that are staying ahead of this looming crisis are the ones that are committed to keeping their users in the loop. And just like in mobile banking, anticipatory care is crucial for establishing trust in internet banking. And it goes beyond security measures. It has to be a core philosophy that is integrated throughout the entire digital banking journey. A crucial aspect of this approach is enhancing trust by empowering users based on their individual preferences and also their varying needs for control. What the data has now told us is that the key to nailing anticipatory care is about understanding the spectrum of control. So, users have indicated to us that their need for personalization in banking is directly linked to their degree of need for control over their finances and management. Users that prefer default banking setups tend to have simpler financial needs and require a looser grip on their financial management. In contrast, the user with more complex financial needs who wants to do more with their money management tools need a highly personal and customized experience. So both user types are equally important. The challenge for banks is to be able to create an empowering digital experience regardless of the user's degree for financial control, and to make it seamless for each user to create or to adapt to the experience that they find most valuable. In essence, users want their bank to serve more like a partner or a friend than just a mere service provider. In fact, this is an opportunity for banks to proactively entrench an emotional relationship with users. This will bring you much closer to your users and achieve a position of total anticipatory care. One user has put it quite clearly in her own words by saying, I want to add a spending habit summary to my dashboard. It would be great to see a quick overview of my spending patterns. For example, if I could see that I spend too much on takeout or coffee, it would help me cut back. I want to see a simple chart or list that shows my top 3 spending categories each month. This way I can make better choices about where to spend my money. Right now, I just see numbers, but having a personal summary would help me understand my habits and make changes if needed. Looking at the driver of ease of use, top performers are building intuitive, clearly structured, and easy to navigate platforms offering consistent cross device experiences. Users need to be able to quickly find what they need. There needs to be smooth, reliable and transaction processes, and clear product information needs to be easily available. All of this, coupled with continuously listening to what your users are saying, is the key for driving satisfaction. Still considering ease of use, the element of care extends to how best banks can support users in their times of need. And in a time where AI support is becoming increasingly relied upon, the digital banking space has to balance the strengths and weaknesses of both human and machine support. So, when we consider how users are experiencing AI driven support systems like AI chatbots, as well as human driven methods like live agents and call centers, the spectrum of simpler to complex queries comes into play. Users are appreciating AI methods for simpler tasks given its ease of navigation. However, the more complex, difficult queries or concerns still require that human touch. So the key is to value AI's role in banking for its convenience and efficiency, while human support brings a realistic, empathic element to banking. In essence, users need banks to understand that AI and human support must coexist for their unique roles, values, and impact. They should not oppose each other. While AI's role is to bring quick, always online efficiency to banking, its value is in making banking needs more efficient and ultimately more accessible. The role of human support is more to address complex, nuanced, or urgent issues, and its value is in building trust and in building trust amongst users. This in turn then leads to higher customer confidence and loyalty to the brand. And these two support structures must ultimately work in tandem in order to create the perfectly anticipatory experience. In users' own words, they say AI helps with basic, easy questions when you're stuck on how to use the app and other queries. It's not 100%, but it is effective. When it comes to human support, another user says, with the human agents, I felt like I was in good hands with people who know what they're doing. I didn't feel disappointed at all. So, to summarize, to satisfy your internet banking users, we must address users' concerns about online transaction risks by consistently updating and communicating security measures and reinforcing the protection of sensitive personal information. We have to clearly communicate the value that users are receiving for their fees while ensuring consistent and fast payment processing. We need to simplify platform navigation, ensuring that intuitive design for first time users, and providing personalized experiences that are meeting individual banking needs. And across all of this, we cannot forget to talk to our users and keep them in the know about all of our efforts to improve. Again, we have looked only at the top drivers of satisfaction, but there is much more to be done in driving internet banking satisfaction. And this is unpacked in full and on a bank by bank basis in our complete report. And now I'll hand back over to Bronwyn to share some concluding remarks.
Thanks so much, Sash. So we've been through a lot of information, but as you walk away from this, I would say that there would be three absolutely crucial points that, if nothing else, I'd like you to take home with you. Firstly, trust is the true differentiator in digital banking. Despite what we've seen with widespread improvements in ease of use, quality of information, and accessible design, trust continues to decline due to the rise in fraud and the rise in AI-enabled cyber threats. What this means is that banks have to go beyond those basic security measures and actually proactively rebuild user confidence. And this is done through transparent, personalized, and anticipatory care. Ease of use remains foundational, but it has to evolve with personalization. So users still expect seamless and simple interactions, but dynamic personalization that adapts to individual user needs and emotions is going to be key to a bank actually standing out. But what's always crucial to remember with this is that personalization has to enhance but never complicate the user experience. Finally, the future of customer support isn't AI and it isn't humans. Rather, it's the smart balance of both. AI and human support has to reach a level of seamless symbiosis where one isn't trumping the other one. Rather, each has their own distinct strengths and users value them for their unique and individual impacts. This means that users expect both channels to work optimally in their own ways, but in a way that actually complements each other. So, where to from here? What does a bank actually need to do in order to drive satisfaction? Firstly, proactively rebuild trust and inspire that confidence in your ability. Trust is earned, and it's earned through clear, ongoing communication that highlights not only the security measures that you have in place, but also your bank's commitment and especially your bank's capability to stay ahead of evolving and increasingly sophisticated threats. So ultimately, it's about reassuring your users that their safety is still your number one priority. Secondly, evolve ease of use through adaptive personalization. As I've mentioned, seamless simplicity remains vital. It's non-negotiable. But the next step is that dynamic personalization that intuitively evolves with a user's behavior and needs. So banks need to make sure that every interaction feels relevant without adding any complexity. Embed anticipatory care throughout the digital journey and make sure that you're catering to individual needs for control. You have to recognize and respect that users have varying desires for financial control, from those simplistic default settings to the more highly bespoke management. You need to deliver the personalized, intuitive experiences that empower your users emotionally and functionally in order to build that relationship where you're more of a caring partner and you're not just another service provider in a sea of millions of service providers. Finally, we make the machines, not the other way around. Certainly, digital advancements like AI chatbots and support have eased the banking experience, but it can't replace that human touch. Knowing that AI and digital assistance has its place in the more elementary functions and queries, but also that human assistance remains as a safety net for more complex and serious matters. That knowledge is what's going to differentiate the good banks from the banks that are truly stellar and exceptional.
So before we move over to the Q&A, I wanted to let you know that we have a quick feedback survey that you can fill out if you want to share your thoughts on this webinar, and we'd really appreciate it if you would fill it out. It helps us to improve. In the survey, you can also request to purchase the full version of the report. You can access it by scanning the QR code on the screen. Feel free to do it now, but you'll also receive a link in the follow-up mail, so you can also do that later. The survey is completely anonymous, and but please do share your email address if you want to purchase the full report. We do have some time for Q&A, so we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. If you don't have any questions, that's okay. It can pop up later. Please feel free to reach out to us and we'll address them then. Okay, so one question, ladies. How do banks cater for all different user needs across the spectrum of control? Because it's not always possible to please or cater for every use type.
Thanks, Matt. I'll take that one. Thank you for the question. It's a really important question that someone has raised. And it's absolutely true that banks can't cater for every single type of need. But I think from what respondents are saying, it's more about giving each user the right tools to tailor their experience themselves, depending on their individual user need. So while we can't possibly cover every user need ad infinitum, we can work to put in place those tools that will help most users design or curate those platforms in kind of the best ways that work for them. Hope that answers the question.
I think you also said something earlier on about different people with simpler banking needs had less need for personalization and fine control than those with more complex banking needs. So that lines up with that as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Next question is, we've got the concept of anticipatory care sounds doable for mobile banking, but how would banks implement this for internet banking platforms? Great question.
Yeah, I think it kind of latches onto the previous question a little bit. So yeah, it's also a very important question. I think the key to extending anticipatory care to internet banking platforms is really, the core of it is to understand why people use internet banking platforms versus mobile in the first place. So internet and desktop banking is generally used more for the more complex or those high risk transactions, and also by certain demographic segments more than others. So I think when it comes to extending this care into internet banking, the core step will be to consider the context of internet banking and then tailor that partnership accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, something that's been baffling me was, Bron, right in the beginning, you showed us the top three in each different category. And what I saw was that Nedbank came third in both digital and mobile banking, but second overall. How does that work?
Yes, so best digital bank, so the overall score you're referring to, is a weighted accumulation of internet and mobile banking. So a bank to do well in digital banking has to actually be delivering on both fronts. Nedbank delivers on internet banking and it delivers on mobile banking, whereas other banks might be doing well in one area, but a little bit less in another area. So ultimately and holistically looking at the digital banking journey, Nedbank would be what we'd call an all-rounder, which pays off. So I mentioned that mobile banking is a top priority and, you know, it is more heavily weighted, but that's also not to suggest at all that a bank could neglect either one of the platforms. It does have to focus on that holistic experience.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Like I said, if you don't have any more questions right now, that's perfectly fine. If they come up, reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer them. And that's going to bring our webinar to a close. If you do want to know more about our upcoming events or have any questions about this webinar or the full report, you can reach out to us by sending an email to contact@wearehumanate.com, the address on the screen right now. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today and wish you an excellent rest of your day. Have a good one. Thank you.